The Google March 2026 core update rollout is now fully complete. Hey lads, how's it going?
No, how are we?
Lads, happy Friday.
Happy
Hope
Friday.
Masters
we all
weekend.
Oh yeah.
Masters weekend is a good weekend as they go. And you know what? It's going to be raining all weekend, so oh, how bad. How bad.
Hope you all managed
So,
to get your tanks filled now before.
yeah, I've no fuel to go anywhere anyway, and it's
Oh,
raining, so guess I just have to watch the Masters. So we'll get into the weekly discussion here. So the first thing I put in this, so it's just the Google March 2026 core update rollout is now fully complete. So I'll just run through the little details of it quickly. So it started on March 27th, finished on April 8th, so it lasted for 12 days and 4 hours. Google didn't give any specific things to look out for, but I think these are the kind of three things that they always say for their core updates is so ranking drops don't necessarily mean something is wrong.
mm,
Recovery often comes with future updates as opposed to immediate fixes, so kind of don't panic. And again, as always, just focus on helpful, reliable, people first content. So I kind of read through this full article it was on Search Engine Land. And again, as I often find with the core updates, sometimes it can be hard to kind of parse out what actually changed unless it's affected you directly.
Yeah,
So I guess, but now that it's finally ended, I think people will be able to dig into it a bit more. I think it's easier to analyze it after it's ended, is what
yeah,
I kind of read.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably find out maybe even in the next week,
yeah,
um, whatever stuff has happened.
And yeah, I think as you said, they didn't. It was like a spam update, and they didn't really add anything new. And all they're saying is to kind of refer back to their own core update guidelines and their helpful content guidance. Like, I personally think it's probably to cut down on like AI content farming. Like, remember, Keen, you were saying there a couple of weeks ago about the guy that just scaled a complete AI website with about like 100,000 different pages. I'd say it's probably to cut down on stuff like.
definitely. Yeah,
But that's theory. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Right. So
Yeah, I put in just it was the same one. I put this slide in just to give about the recommendation. So small drops, don't take any. There's nothing that needs to be really done. Even though in Google's new documentation, they are saying here that if there are large drop in positions, there should be a deeper assessment done on the website. So if you've gone from 4 to 29, but as you said, that doesn't mean you're going to recover. It might be take the future update to do it.
right, this is you, Keen again.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. So, Google CEO Sundar came out and said basically he predicts future search will become an AI agent manager more so than people just searching. So there'll be so much trust in AI that they believe that when you go to look for something, you're going to type it in, and an agent's going to do it for you. So it'll be like searching your flights, booking your holiday, giving you all the information you want. You'll be asking it to do tasks more so than just provide information. And that's going to be the future. So I reckon this is kind of your area where you might see a lot of the AI mode coming into search results. This is just being prepared for it. How it's going to look in the future, only someone knows. And what happens, does this take away from their ad revenue? Like any changes that happens, I always take with a pinch of salt, because they might consider something, but if it affects the bottom line of the business and they're not getting as much ad revenue, then there's rollbacks. But my opinion.
Right.
I'm not comfortable giving AI that much control over my life.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't think a lot of people are. Um,
Was there any
I,
timeline on it? Is there any kind of any estimate of when stuff will move this way? I feel like we've been talking about it in a lot of different ways for a long time, the agentic AI, but
You see, I think it's been accelerated with Claude. Claude
yeah.
has now become like the number one thing for people, where they're downloading it to their desktops and allowing access to their website. But like, I know that they say, oh, they have to be permissions granted, but people are asking to bypass permissions, and someone's entire email is being deleted. And like you, Mark, the trust isn't there. I'm
Yeah,
testing
and
it out.
like I was I was watching a thing with like I think he's the AI person for Meta, but he was talking about like the next stage will be neural implants for AI. I must try and find that now. But I just was a bit like, we're going a bit too far here, lads. We're getting into very Black Mirror territory, you know. Um, like, I don't know. I follow a thing on Instagram just called like the mad shit that AI CEOs say, and it's just mental.
Yeah, yeah, Anthropic, and like the code got released by Anthropic, and they said it was intentional. Now they're backpedaling, but ChatGPT is the one that seems to be the one losing out to Google and Claude.
So yeah, this next one was me. So new research from Semrush shows that human pages still dominate rankings in Google. AI content still appears on page one, but in much lower page positions. So for this Semrush, they looked at 42,000 blog posts, and human written content took the number one position like 80% of the time versus 9% for purely AI generated pages. So I think to get this, they looked at 20,000 different keywords. They looked at the top 10 results for each of those keywords, and then they used GPT-0, the AI detector, to identify which was AI and which wasn't. And then they also talked to like 200 different SEOs as part of the study. So they found human written pages, they outperform pure AI and mixed AI content across like all 10 positions in results. The biggest gap was in position one, where human content was like 8 times more likely to rank above AI content. So I suppose the caveat is those AI detectors, they're not always 100% right or consistent.
No, we can see that with say Grammarly will update stuff that I've human written, and next it shows
Yeah.
up with AI.
So like kind of a little bit of grey area there, but I think why this is kind of interesting is like, people will probably say, well, it's obvious human content will rank over AI. But like a lot of studies we've looked at, over the last few months, and even like over 70% of the SEOs they asked said that AI content performs as well or even better than human content. So like the data here obviously says otherwise.
Yeah.
Like I guess.
Yeah, I've seen it in a couple of industries where like competitors of ours are showing up when, like it says in Ahrefs, high, extremely high version of AI content. They're on position one, so it might be more to do with the authority of domains, the types of queries, the type of industry. There's so many different variables that could account for it. But yeah, look, I'm all about humanizing at the very least. Nothing should.
Yeah, I suppose it goes back to what we always say. Like AI can help you rank, but you need the kind of human part to get the better results, especially if you're going after very competitive keywords. So you need to be showing your originality, your expertise, and how you kind of approach that content is what's going to get you up. That's what she said.
All right. So marketing tip of the week, I just threw this one in, just plain and simple. So it's just basically choosing the right social media channels for your target audience. So I guess there's loads of different ways you could think about this. I threw in a little a poorly generated image by Gemini there, just to show us, in a simple example, this would be a local baker in Ireland might use platforms like Facebook and Instagram to reach a local market. And then something as simple as, say, a business selling IT systems to other businesses, they might be more likely to use something like LinkedIn, somewhere where they will find businesses on.
B2B, demographic, gender, those type of things all matter. So yeah, you're 100% right. The age demographic is always a massive one. The location, even the geolocation as well, I suppose, because it's not just like Ireland has a more prominence maybe to TikTok, while over in China it's all WeChat. So look, it all depends on the markup. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and every business obviously will be different, so it depends on your specific demographic is kind of the key takeaway. So I'll just fly through the next two here. So helpful tool of the week. I just threw in Loom this week. So Loom is a screen recorder. Basically we use it a lot. I think Keane used it a lot for training, for sending on us little clips of how you did something. I think the knackiest thing about it too is the fact that you can have like a little talking face in the corner, like almost like a little stream kind of. And then the easiest thing is that you can kind of send it over with a link.
And do you know what? Since they have AI integrations into it now, where if I'm doing a how-to video, I can now generate an SOP. So it'll actually give me a step-by-step. So if I'm showing someone how to set up a Google Analytics tag in GTM, I can now record the screen. And not only that, if I do generate the SOP, it takes screenshots of all the steps. It gives it a nice bullet point list. So you can actually put that into your SOP documents. I no longer have to use any of the screenshot plugins that I used to have in the past. It's all like done in a recording. It's fantastic. Great tool.
Yeah, brilliant tool in fairness.
Yeah.
So just some Google trends of the week that I just threw in two of the main ones. So two different sides of what's going on here. So they've got the Masters leaderboard, obviously all the people watching the Masters this weekend, and then just the plain search for fuel is
Yeah.
obviously
You hit it on the head earlier when we were speaking. It's like, what a great time to have a fuel shortage. You just sit at home, watch the Masters.
exactly, yeah,
Right.
exactly. So they're the kind of two main things dominating the list of trends this week for obvious reasons. So we'll just fly through some questions here for the experts. So the first one here is, which writing patterns make AI written content stand out to Google?
Effectively determining the likelihood of whether a particular piece of content was generated by an AI model is multifaceted and nuanced process.
Is Mark a real
Yeah,
person?
yeah. I think if you know what to look for, you can pick it out. Like
Explore, what's the other ones? Navigate.
yeah, it tends to be very repetitive. It uses a lot of words or fluffy language to say like not a lot. It tends to struggle with like a neutral tone. That's why everything sounds like an advertisement, or like it sounds like you're doing like a first year college assignment. You're just trying to ram stuff in for the word count. It tends to be like the same structure. Like sentences are all the same length. Very kind of
Yeah.
short.
Formatting
Like
bullet points.
yeah, like formatting, like vertical lists, bullets. A lot of kind of bold in the copy and like kind of weird formatting you wouldn't use. Like as Keane was saying, there's a lot of words it kind of uses and overuses, like nuanced and navigate. Like there's another thing that you can kind of spot that like I find very annoying is like the really formal kind of transitions, like furthermore, nevertheless, consequently, in conclusion, or like the kind of what are they called, like the hedging kind of phrases, like where they say something without really kind of committing anything, like it's worth noting or it goes without saying. Kind of talks like a marketing like director or like an influencer, like you foster innovation, you drive engagement, navigate complexities. There's always like very broad like stories, descriptions without like anecdotes. And then like what are other things, Keen? Like it overuses M dashes, like lists of
Oh yeah,
bullets,
the UK spelling, all that kind of
emojis.
thing. They're the
Yeah,
basic
yeah.
ones. A lot of people I've noticed when we were doing interviews a while ago, they never even took out the spacing in between things and left in all the bowls. It's like mad. It's like humanized stuff, guys.
Yeah, that's it. Human, like, and you know, there tends to be no mistakes. It's all perfect grammar. Like it kind of lacks the little, what's the word, idiosyncrasies of the way you kind of write and the way you talk. Like you know,
No, we should actually do a training session on this. I think this would be a good one to actually sit down and have a think about and have a dedicated one on.
Yeah,
yeah, really, like definitely. This is a favorite subject of mine, to be honest. Now,
yeah. But and the more you kind of use it, the more you kind of notice. Like, I mean, it started with the dashes. I feel like that was the first thing everyone knew, the ChatGPT dash or the M dash or whatever. But it's like the more you use it, you're like, oh no, there's much more of these tells that you can kind of see. But yeah, it's obviously it's very
we might
prominent.
do. We might make a post on this and put it on the Ardu site.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So, is schema markup still the secret weapon for technical SEO?
I can take this one if you want, but yeah, look, schema markup is it's great for standing out visually in SERPs. Like sometimes if you go in there, say a product schema, and you go to a Google SERP, you'll see the price in it. It makes it stand out. But a search engine can still read all the copy. It can understand the information on the page, so it's not a massive secret weapon. It can help analyze. It can help with a bit of structuring. It might even encourage website owners to be a bit more strategic in developing the information on the page, but it doesn't. It's not a secret weapon, and I don't think a lot of people are saying it's the like number one thing for AI search. It's not. Like they don't parse that as part of AI search. They're looking at the content, from what I can see and from the industry, what everyone's been saying as well. But it is something that I feel like if you can stand out in the SERPs and it can help with a bit more information, there is absolutely no harm in doing it. It is something that should be in there if possible. You can probably overdo it, and I'm not too mad about FAQ scheme anymore, but breadcrumbs, pricing, reviews, starting from whether it's an article or an organization, all that kind of stuff, very helpful.
Okay. So which LLM is leading the way in the SEO space? ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude?
God. I
Well,
suppose would that come down to what you're using it for, really? Would it?
yeah, in the SEO space, if we're
Yeah.
talking about users, well, look, the Gemini AI overview, that's the number one
Mm.
usage from a consumer point of view. Anyone who's using it is probably coming in there and doing SERPs and interacting with it, whether they know it's Gemini or not. ChatGPT has always been the one that people downloaded when AI first came out, but a lot of people are moving away from it, or they're not using it as much as they used to. Like the video generation is going sore. I don't think is actually going to be there. But Claude in the SEO space for SEOs is the number one AI and LLM model at the moment because of all the agentic stuff. And
Yeah.
you have Claude Co-work, it can interact with your desktop. You're giving it permissions to files. I've seen some things where you're able to interact with Meta and publish stuff on Meta in a few seconds. It can analyze your campaigns. Even though I did hear, just a caveat, if you're thinking about doing to Meta, there have been bans to accounts because these platforms don't want you giving access to AI to automatically publish stuff.
True.
Probably Manus that Facebook bought will probably be a big one in the future as well. But if we're just looking at SEO, I think Claude is the number one at the moment.
That's very good. I think we have one more. So where's the first place to start in a paid media campaign?
I put this one in because this is actually a conversation yesterday. It's like, look, I want someone on contact. We set up a Google Ads agency page on the website, and we got one or two inquiries already. But the first thing I said to them is like, hey, look, who's the target audience? You have to analyze which paid media platform you want to use. Is it search intent? For a service, or are you going to use Facebook or LinkedIn for B2B? They're some of the first things to look at. You have to decide on the platform. Again, you mentioned audience earlier, but the first place you start with everything is the data. So you have to make sure that your pixels are set up. You need to make sure your conversion actions are in place, that when someone fills in a form, does a lead, you know what keyword triggered that lead, you know what landing page did that lead. You want to also make sure that you have your conversion pixels set up. If you're doing purchase conversions, you want to make sure that you're feeding that information back into the ad platforms. So if I made a sale on if I bought a pair of runners, or we're setting up and trying to capture that information, say the runners cost €100, you want to make sure that that €100 for that sale gets attributed back into your Facebook Meta dashboard and into your Google Ads, so that you can use ROAS targeting. So you can target return on ad spend. And so for every euro you put in, you want to make sure that you're making €10 in profit, because the margins on some products have to dictate that. If you don't have that in place, very hard. You need to know your cost per lead as well. If it's a service-based business, you need to be able to scale. And if you know that your leads are costing €50, but which is acceptable in a certain industry, if you're getting paid enough, if you're making €1,000, then €50 is absolutely fine. Even €100 per lead might be really good if you're a roofer or something like that, because you make so much money, or a solicitor. But then if you're a product-based one, or if you don't have your service is like making cakes or something, you might have to do your cost per acquisition would have to be under €5, because you're only making €70 per cake. So you don't want to have to get a client for that much. But ensuring that your data is in place is the number one thing you have to look at.
Very good.
Perfect. Right, cheers, Ken. I think that is us for the week. Yeah.
Okay,
So thanks
thanks very
everyone.
much.
Yeah, thanks, lads. Enjoy the Masters anyway. Uh,
Won't be going anywhere.
yeah, I'm going anywhere.
No. No.
Right.
See you guys.
Next time.
Lads.